We're live.
Hi, everyone.
Who all is here? We've got a full house already. Let's see here. Oh, man. Busted Radio Garage sure was here early. LP94 and the One-Eyed Cat. Wendy English, who apparently is not at work because she tells us when she gets home from work and it was 7:16 and she was here. Technician Troy is here. Frizzell Racing. I keep thinking this might be the year of the Ford, and Frizzell Racing, he's one of the many Ford guys bringing the heat this year. Auto Salvage Outlaws. Let's get some snacks and drinks. It's going to be a good live. I agree. We've got Scott with an S. A rare treat. 38 is here. Busted Radial's hanging out. He's got a full plate. Says he's got a new project coming too. That guy's not afraid to tackle a lot of stuff. Pure Pontiac Garage, a.k.a. John. Thank you for swinging by. Unfinished Project is here. Lars, how's it going? One-Eyed Cat, getting his first engine together. I'm excited for him. Mohawk 62. Wrong English. Buff Del Campo. Hey, there's Heavens Mopars in the chat. Your alter ego. Rapid Transit J. Cope is here. Junkyard D. Danny Boyd. Well, good crew in here. Riley's Junkyard and Petting Zoo says EO. I think he means EIEIO, but that's close enough. Riley's Junkyard and Petting Zoo will be live tonight after this live. I thought I would mention that. He'll be live with the Useful Entertainment crew tonight. I believe it's a celebration of 250 subscribers. Mopars, Mustangs, and Minivans says, I called it. What did you call? Heads or tails? Levi's Backyard Performance is here. Says, what's up, NNN family? Twisted Mopar Garage, Dean Stevenson, Mexican Spec. Does Nothing Special. That's kind of an underrated username, I think. I kind of like that. Rob's Rods and Streetcars. Riley said he had to sell some of his junky Ford parts for some Chevy stuff. That sounds like less than a lateral, but hey, man, it's your stuff. Jim's Fast Pack Garage, another one of our Ford guys. I'm telling you, we're going to have quite a Ford show this year. Don't think they know what they're asking for, but glad to have them. Mater is here. Functional Histories is here. Sam Mountain Ballistics Hunter is here. Cool. Glad you all could make it. So you know by now that the person who was awarded the 2024 No Name Nationals motivational clock is Scott, as NSB and Mostly Old Parts comes drifting in. So you can see a part of the graphic there on the screen with the sections of the clock. And if you want to see what's on the clock, you know, section by section, Scott did a good video, a good short video on his channel showing you what each section of the clock is. So you can see it there. It's the only one. Oh, you have it close? You have it at hand? Oh, there we go. That's the clock itself. The sign shop who prints the graphics for me and the person at the post office who mails it, everybody loves those things. They recognize them now each year going in there. So
funny. Hey, John, maybe you could send that to Post Office Pam.
Yeah,
because she made it in the video.
That's it. Post Office Pam made it in the video. So
yeah,
it's the stuff like that people in the community like. I think it's pretty cool. But see, Jackie Abbott's here. Cool. Jackie Abbott, you came up in conversation at lunch today. We're talking about baking fine cookies, and you came up.
the best.
I know it. I know it. Jackie
So
comes
good.
up in a conversation about baking fine cookies, and Roland comes up in a conversation about some cone dodging stuff. And it's interesting how you guys are quite often topics of things like that. So it's pretty cool. Colleen saw the post office Pam picture. Indeed, indeed. Pam gets a kick out of this stuff. But anyway, I'm glad to have Scott. So we had a couple weeks ago we had the winners of Clocks Past with Colleen and Damien and Dust Devil Brian, and tonight we've got the winner of Clock Present, Scott with an S. And I've had some people ask me, what is the deal with the clock? I was showing pictures of Scott's car at lunch, talking with someone, and by and large, it's for somebody who kind of bites off an ambitious project, right? And there's only one, so it's not saying there's only one person that takes on an ambitious project, but it's just it's probably the best candidate to win the clock that year. And so Scott's taken on a really ambitious project with that Charger. And I think most of you in the chat are familiar with what he's doing. If you're not, you should check it out. But he has taken on a Charger project that is not for the faint of heart. And anyway, I thought it'd be cool to have him on here. We could talk about the project and the progress and some of these really interesting curveballs you've had, things that I've certainly never had happen and most of us haven't. But I'm glad you're here.
Well, thanks. It's an honor to be here. That's for sure.
You still have snow, right?
Yes, but today most of it is melted. We only got about an inch the other day.
You get a lot of rain too.
Yes.
I mean, more than we do. So I guess if you have enough temperature, your snow wouldn't stick around anyway.
Yeah, and it's been in the 40s recently, so any snow we're having is disappearing fast.
So what is your time frame looking like? Because I think this Charger project is really interesting. You really took what possessed you to take that project on?
Yeah, that I actually was not planning on getting the car. It kind of came my way, and the story behind it was always scrolling through Marketplace, and it's like, oh, a Charger. It's like, what happened? There was a guy selling a Dart, and I saw a Charger in the background. I'm like, what about that Charger? And he's like, it's not for sale. And I'm like, understandable, okay. And then I said, later on, kind of got to know the guy because we're always kind of going back and forth. And then he showed some other pictures of the Charger. He goes, you still interested in it? I've decided to sell it. And he showed me some pictures of it, and I'm like, ooh. I'm like, I don't know. And he was asking like $8,000 or $9,000 for it, and I'm
whoa,
like,
man!
I don't think so.
Wow.
And so then I kind of thought about it here and there, and I was kind of joking with him. I'm like, I'll trade this truck for it, and because I was kind of half serious. But then probably about a year later goes by, and out of the blue, he's like, I'll trade that Charger for your truck. And I was like, I'm like, do I? So I thought about it, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And I said, if you toss in that Art Morrison rear chassis, I'll do it. And he said, well, I paid some good money for that. And I'm like, well, you're also getting a really nice truck. And so we ended up trading. But then when I traded, I was like, because it is a Charger. I've wanted a Charger since I was 15. My dad had one. His Charger was literally a shell, and he literally put that Charger together one piece at a time. And so I'm following right in Dad's footsteps and doing the same thing, except he had a solid straight shell to work with. But then I was thinking, how am I going to fund the thing? And because before I get my cars, I always try to have a way to figure out how to fund them. And because I use the hobby to fund the hobby. And so I'll buy a car for $1,500, fix it up a little, and sell it for 7 or 8. And then I keep a third of that money, set it aside to buy another project car. So I call that my seed money. And then I take the profits and use that to fix up the cars that I have.
Right.
That way, the hobby is always self sustaining. And that way, we don't have to touch our bank account.
Yeah.
So, but with this charger, I was like, I don't have a plan for it. And it's a big project. So what had happened was a long time ago, I was selling I had a Dodge half-ton step-side truck, but it didn't have a title, and so nobody really wanted to buy it. Had it listed for like $4,000, 4,500, but 4,000 if I could keep the wheels. And right as I bought the charger, I forgot that ad was up, and I was like, oh yeah. I was just getting ready to kind of take it down because I was like, I guess I should, because no one. And some guy's like, I'll buy your truck. And I was like, really? And I was thinking, well, I could sacrifice it and use it for the money to buy parts for the charger. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. After we exchanged money, the guy, he's like, yeah, I'm buying the truck mostly for the bed. I don't want the rest of the truck, So he bought a $4,000 bed, basically. And but then he said I could buy the truck back if I wanted, but I don't know what I'd do with half a truck, so I just let it go. But anyway, so I used the $4,000 to buy quarter panels, glass, the main parts that I needed, and then I also got a bonus from work, which gave me some more money, and with that, I bought the rooftop and console, those two parts that ended up missing through shipping. And so, and I actually have a new AMD rooftop coming. I had a friend who, I made a post once I had issues with the rooftop missing, and I used my house as a ministry years ago, way before I got married. And I called it the launch pad to help people get on their feet again and reach new heights,
Cool.
so to speak. And about 50% of the people it helped, the other 50%, they just abused it. And I'm like, it's time for you to go because you're not willing to help yourself. So, but one of the guys,
honestly, 50% is pretty good for that.
Yeah.
Statistically.
Thanks. And we keep in contact to this day, all the people that it helped. Became good friends through it. And when I posted that post on Facebook, one of the guys that I helped, he's like, hey, Scott, I saw what happened to you. That totally sucks. I'm in a much better position now because of you and how you helped me and stuff like that. Because I wouldn't charge them rent. That way they could have an address, have some food, a safe place. With rent free. And he's like, now that I'm doing better financially, I want to give you $1,000 to say thank you for how you've helped me. And I was like, oh, dude, really? And I said, thanks. So with that, I was able to buy the AMD rooftop,
That's fantastic.
And so that was a huge blessing because I about to give up on it and just go to the duster and go back to that. But because without that rooftop, I can't really do much. And so that's kind of the story in a nutshell behind it. And plus, I thought it would be a good. I like challenges, and they put pressure on you, but the pressure, I think, in some ways is good for me because it keeps you on task and motivated, so to speak. And not that I'm a slacker by any means, but so that's something that, and plus the No Name Nationals, and good YouTube content, stuff like that. And plus, I want to prove to people, well, prove to myself that I can do it. I'm still new at the metal work, to be honest with you. But as long as you line things up and check your gaps before you make it permanent, you're good to go. So I thought I'll give it a hard charge. And if it, turns out to be a nightmare, well, I don't think that'll happen because I'm a real meticulous, pay attention to detail type of person. So I think I can do it. And I'm confident that I can. And I want to prove to people that if you don't have skills or knowledge, like me, I'm still learning. Hopefully I can inspire you to learn too. And this is what I did to do it. And YouTube has been a great way to journal things, to see the progress and the growth where you've been and where you're going. Doing it for that reason. And plus, with this car, I don't want it sitting for a year or two in the condition it's in, because people will always ask about it and they're like, when are you going to get to it? And I just want to take something once I got it and just finish it and just bam, nail it out. So I want to prove to the naysayers too that it can be done.
That will be a car again.
Yes. And thank you for that hashtag. That's fun.
It's interesting that this is the challenge you pick. We ambitious car building people who love this stuff, we couldn't live long enough in 10 lifetimes to do all the things and build all the things and drive all the things that we want to. So we have to choose our challenges, right?
Yes.
And the older we get, nature dictates there are fewer challenges we can take, right? So we have to be more and more selective. So what possesses you to look at that Charger and say, this is the challenge I want?
It's always been a dream of mine to have a Charger. I've been one of those guys that have always wanted one, and I've tried literally since I was, well, probably after high school, in my 20s, to try to get one. And sometimes I'd come within inches of getting one, but I never could land one. And this is the only one I could get my hands on. And I had a friend not too long ago, but he said, which car is it you want to work on? Work on that one first. The most important one. I have several cars, and so it's hard to choose, but a Charger's always been one of them. And because I have other nicer cars by far that are way easier to put together. But with this one, all I thought I had to do was just do the metal work, and get the quarter panels and the rooftop, basically, for the most part, get those lined up. And the thing I like about metal work is it goes fairly fast if things cooperate. You have to tweak it and bend it and make it work sometimes. And but with the Charger, it's not going to be a 10-point restoration car. It's going to be tubbed out. And so that means I don't have to do all the fancy stuff to pour thousands of dollars into. I traded a truck that I tried to sell for $2,000. It never did. So since I traded the truck and all the money that I have into it, I think I'm maybe $6,500 total into the car so far. And to have a car at that price, especially a Charger, running, driving, I think I can do it. I'll have to put more money into it, like brake lines and the smaller stuff. But so it'll kind of be a fast project put together. And then I can take my time with the other ones. And if I want to make them nicer, I can, or whatever. So, and in 9 months, it's not going to be a 2 or 3 year long project.
Quick shout out to Auto Salvage Outlaw, 6% recycled Hot Rod Guy Garage. Saw them sneak in here. Also, and T's Good Time Garage. How's it going, T? Levi had a good question. If you reached out to AMD for any support, they may like the story. I gotta say, AMD might like that you're actually building this from what looks like 2/3 of a car. I would encourage you guys, if you haven't seen the video that Scott did introducing this charger, if one of the mods could put the link up to that video where Scott bought the charger, it is unbelievable. Okay. I mean, it is unreal what he's attempting to do with this. He is starting with something rough, and it'll make it really sweet when he gets it where he wants it to be, but that's impressive. So I would encourage you to check that video out. So if one of the mods stick the link up, I'd appreciate it. But yeah, AMD might like to know you're doing this and what you're starting with, because it would be a real showcase of their product.
Yeah, I did reach out to him a long time ago. When I got the car, I said, I was more or less asking them what I sent an email to them, and then they had responded, and then we went back and forth, and then I had asked them, I was like, I got this really ambitious project. It needs a lot of work, a lot of metal. I'm, in the process of funding the metal for it myself, but out of curiosity, what does it take to be not sponsored by AMD, but to get metal, or whatever, saying I have a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
I'd love to endorse you guys and promote you, and, have banner in the background, so it's always seen to advertise for you, stuff like that. And I never have heard back from them. So I was like, whatever. Okay. Because I plan on funding it myself anyway. I'm not asking for free handouts, but it would be nice.
I will say that we make it work one way or the other. We're not waiting for somebody to steer the ship and fund the project for us. I mean, we all have that in common. So
exactly.
That's a cool thing, because if you wait on other people to buy into your dream, it may never happen. So this is a whole group of make it happen people over here. So, but anyway, I think that's cool. So what does the battle plan look like now? For those of you who haven't seen the car, Scott doesn't even have a straight roof to work with, and one quarter and the tail panel and frame rails are all missing. So Scott's got to measure this thing out and get his panels attached to square the car up before he can even really begin, any real work on the car, which is, it's pretty advanced what he's attempting to do. I think it's pretty cool. And this is all in the garage, no jig or anything. So it's just going to be a lot of measuring, careful measuring, and tacking things together and getting it square. And I'm pretty impressed by the project. But what does your plan look like for the next, let's fast forward. Do you have your roof structure? What's your plan look like for the next 30 days from there?
Yeah, that's going to be the fun part. Real quick, to go back a little before I can even do what I'm attempting to do, is get my garage out of the way. Because my garage, I did a series of everything I had to do to remodel my garage so I can get the car in there in the first place. And because my garage was a 1-car garage, but then they cut it in half to make it a 2-car garage. But when they did that, the floor was a 1/2 inch smaller on the other side of the concrete. And the only way to get my car in there was at a diagonal. And my car was always sitting crooked in the garage. And I cannot put a car together sitting crooked all the time. So I had to remodel my whole garage so I could scoot the car over, take the bench out, move my stove, do an addition so I could put the bench, blah, blah, blah. And actually, I have just finished, and there were only 2 plugins in that whole garage. And then they wired it all, putting a 20 amp breaker on a 15 amp or 12 or 14 gauge wire, just stuff I had to fix. So now I have plugins. Now I can scoot the car over. So now I'm ready to go. And but from here on out, it really makes me mad. What happened with the whole rooftop that I had found in New Hampshire. It had all the understructures, and I had it shipped over to Jason's house with indirect connection. Thank you so much, brother, by the way, for helping me out with that. You guys go check him out in his channel. And because he's trying to get up 500 subscribers too, so he can race his car for the No Name Nationals. But so then I had another guy pick it up and deliver it to Spokane. He picked it up. It ended up missing. It turned in a bunch of chaos. And so now I'm forced to buy just the rooftop skin without the structures. And so that's going to set me back a lot too, because with that whole rooftop that I had found, all I had to do is just take the other one off, line things up, make sure all my glass fits and everything. And then I can do the quarter panels, check all my gaps, blah, blah, blah. But now that I have to do one piece at a time and make all the inner structures work with the rooftop, that's, I think, going to hinder me. And so there is a guy that has a 69 Coronet rooftop. He said I could have it, and it does have the inner structures, and I'll need those. And so I had bought parts from him previously when I put my 69 Coronet together. We became friends, and he's like, yeah, if you can get it, you can have the inner structures. And so I need to get that still, and because that's a recent thing. And so I'm just trying to orchestrate everything at the same time. So my plan is it's gonna take a miracle to get this to work because the car, when I got it, here's a story a lot of you don't know, is that when I got the car, it had a new floor pan installed in it, and I'm like, cool. But the more I looked at it, after he left, I was like, oh gosh, you got to be kidding me. But what the guy did was he used rivets and riveted it down. It's not even welded. And then he ground off the top of the rivets, but it's not even attached to where it's supposed to. There's gaps in between there, and it's just a nightmare. And plus the torsion bar cross brace is rotted on both ends, and so I have another torsion bar cross brace. So I'm going to pluck the floor up, put the crossbar down, put the floor back in, make it nice and tight and together. And so then once that's in, then I get just structure, do a lot of measuring, and reinforce things before that rooftop comes off, and then just start piecing it together and use a bunch of screws to put things in place and tweak it until everything's perfect. Once it's done, then just make it permanent.
You may want to take Roland up on this. Torque Racing Production says if you want to make any carbon fiber parts for it, let me know. Roland knows how to do carbon fiber, so that may wind up being a good deal for you to learn that.
That would be cool.
Because I mean, not only are you not going to have the problem with dealing with the rust and some of the fabrication for some of those things with carbon fiber, and you'll get the weight savings, but it also is going to help you with things that don't line up and don't attach. Could be a good shortcut there.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. I do have the parts. The rooftop will be coming within maybe a week or two. I do have the quarter panels, all the glass, Dutchman panel. I don't have any of the floor because it's getting the tube chassis back half. And but once I get the metal work done, I have a coworker who this will speed up the process significantly. And he says once you get the body done, then I'll put the chassis in for you, and we're going to do some trading, and I got some parts that he needs, and he'll install the frame for me. And he builds race cars, so he knows what he's doing. He's building the rear end and everything. He does have one, but if it's not the right axle length, he can make one for me. I got the wheels and everything, 4-link suspension. But once I do my part, then he's going to get the car with the parts. He's going to attach everything, make it a rolling chassis. And then from there, it should just be, drop the engine in, hook everything up, hook all the small stuff up, and then go from there.
Does he know that he has 215 days, 3 hours, 29 minutes minus travel time?
He does.
Okay. All right. Just
at least
saying.
for him, I'll have everything ready for him. So all he has to do is line things up, do the stance, check some measurements, and then just cut where he needs to, and then weld it in. And then I got to make a floor for it. So
now, Junkyard D asks if you know anyone with a complete charger for reference. You got a pretty good amount of metal missing there. You may need to look at a complete car.
That's a good idea. Actually, the guy who's putting in that tube chassis for me, it's not a tube chassis. It's a square,
It's square tube.
Yeah, it's square tube. There you go.
Yeah.
And the chassis, the back half, he actually has a 69 Charger himself. And before I got this car, I was always finagling with him. What can I do to get your car? And so I can take all measurements off of that. And he has it right there at his house. And so we both have Chargers, and he's actually kind of wanting to do, he won't back half his Charger, but he wants to race it though. He'll mini tub it.
Well, yours is missing the back half, so there's no harm, no foul in back halfing yours.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have a back half now.
So it shouldn't be too hard to take that chassis and just stick right underneath it.
No, yours is the perfect candidate for doing that, though. For doing back half. So how is the rest of the car? Because that's something I couldn't quite discern in the videos. Like, what is the your front end like, and steering and suspension and that kind of stuff? Brakes. What is any of that like? How close do you think it is to prime time?
Yeah. Okay. The situation with the chassis is it's a solid car, believe it or not. The only rust was in the back end of the car, where I guess the guy I got it from said one of the frame rails had, a hole in it. And so they cut the whole back half of the car off. And that's when they're like, ooh, let's back half the car. And they were going to do it. And then they never could, or lost heart or interest or finances or whatever. And that's how I ended up getting it. Because the guy, he's like, this is too much of a project for me. And after he put that floor in, he got so frustrated that he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. So that's how I got it.
Now, so how is your welding? Because when I look at that, you notice one of the sections on the clock is 1,980 miles of MIG wire down, 1,980 miles to Sykeston to go. So what is your welder, your equipment like, and your experience welding? Because you've done a lot of it. You did a lot on that Duster.
Yeah, and actually my friend Paul, if you're watching, hey Paul, kudos, brother. He taught me basically, how to do a plug weld. And a lot of your cars, that's all, well, to your frame rails at least. And there's a lot of spot welds to fix. And, just get it molten hot, bring it into a circle, get good penetration, all that fun stuff. And but I practiced a few times and got it down. I was like, that's a majority of, and then some other spots. So I'm a beginning welder, and with metal, it's just a bunch of little spots, and overlap them. As long as you get good penetration, don't warp the metal, all that fun stuff. But what I did was I have a 70 Challenger, and I'm like, I'm going to learn how to do all this. Paul showed me, here's the basics. And, I practiced a couple times. I went out and bought a Lincoln. It does MIG, TIG, and stick. Got a great deal on that, brand new welder. So lots of room to grow on. And so then I literally tore my Challenger apart because it needed a new trunk pan, lower quarter panels, and the I keep calling it the Dutchman panel, but the sail panel, whatever it's called. And I replaced all those in the Challenger, and I got over my fear because I was terrified to tear the car apart, but it went together, and I think I did a really good job. And I learned a lot through Fitzy fabrications on YouTube. He shows how to cut and butt is his method. And if you want to check that out. And once I did that, it took the fear right away from me. And you get nice tight lines, so there's no gaps in between welds, and it just drops right into place. And so that really helped my confidence a lot.
Shout out to Bad Tree Blake and Jabo. I'm representing today. Mostly old parts wrong ward here. He asks, are you using weld through primer between the panels when you're doing your plug welds?
Yes, definitely.
Do you have a recommendation on brands of supplies and things for those of us that have a lot of metal work ahead of us, like things you've learned?
Gosh, I'm not the greatest. I'm trying to, is it SEM? SEM? I've used their plug welds. They're weld through primer. And then when I'm trying to think of for the frame after you grind it down and coat it, but I drawn a blank on that. But those are the two main things. The only time I've really had to use a prime, to seal things.
And Ron's recommendation is the Sim brand weld through primer.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the name of it, but yeah, that was the stuff I'd used. Covers real nice.
Now, are you gonna keep track of how much welding wire it takes? I think that will make a great contest.
Oh yeah, see how many spools I've
You
gone
could do
through.
it. You could write down how many spools you go through on that one car. That would be a good contest. You know it?
That would be fun. Yeah. Because it's right there on the clock. Well,
yeah.
I don't know if you can see it, but it's hard to read. But yeah.
I'll tell you what. If you want to keep track of how much wire you wind up putting in that project, we'll make a contest out of it. You win a No Name Nationals prize pack for whoever guesses closest. If you want to do something like that, so it's entirely up to you. If you got your hands full, so I'm not nominating you for any more work, but if you did want to do such a thing, we're game.
Yeah. Awesome.
Now, how much are you going to how complete are you trying to get this? And then what things are you going to say, I am not worried about right now? We'll worry about them next year.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
What things are the must do, and what are it would be nice if there's time?
Yeah, because with the car, I would like to make it nice eventually. But if the main thing when I bought the parts, I'm like, I need the big metal pieces to fill in holes. I need valences. I kind of waited toward the last minute for those because they're not as important, because I bought the important things first, like the glass front and rear windows, because I need those before I make things permanent, make sure things line up right. So that was the thought process with the important stuff. I need quarter panels. I need the top. And then from there on, I'm working my way down to the smaller parts like the valences. They can probably wait, but I'm sure they need to be there for a little bit of safety. I need bumpers. I still need a front bumper for the car, and the bumper mounts that attach it. But then, the main things needs an engine, transmission. And I'm not going to worry about, I do got to make sure the glass is in there for safety. In case an arm goes out a window or something like that, if something goes south. But I'm not worrying as long as, let me back up. If the car is safe, like brakes, I got to make it stop, so those are the important things. Like my dad says, there's no use making it, go if you can't make it whoa.
I will say this.
Um,
If you don't have a side glass, you do need to have a window net if you don't have a side glass. And we don't care if you have a windshield or not. You don't necessarily have to have a windshield. So
okay.
just saying, not saying that you shouldn't, just saying that those two things wouldn't be a deal breaker if you didn't.
Okay. And then from there, I'm not worried about obviously the way the car looks. Because I do want to make it look nice in time, do the body and paint and make it look sharp, but the inside of the car probably won't have a main full dash. It probably have the gauges, uh, door panels and stuff. It won't have any of that. As long as I can make it shift. I had bought a console for it with the shifter and the brackets and all the linkage, but that ended up missing from one of the shippers shipping it up from Louisiana. He said someone stole it. Um, he had it under a cargo net on his trailer. He noticed it gone one day.
How come it's always the expensive, desirable stuff with good resale that gets stolen and lost?
Yeah, exactly. He said he was having financial problems getting up here, and I honestly think he sold it. So we're trying to get reimbursed for that also.
Did you get a good resolution on the rooftop, or I mean, where does that stand? Did you get a good resolution on that from the shipping company or whomever?
Yeah, it's just between. Well, UShip. I contacted them and said, this guy hasn't delivered my product yet. It happened with two people. And so what they said, they emailed the person and said, we'll close your account if you don't respond to this email. They copied me in on the email, and both of them responded, whereas just me trying to contact them, they wouldn't respond at all. But when they threatened to suspend their account until further action was taken, so that's kind of, and then the one guy, I said, if we can't figure something out, I'm going to, I had also contacted the police, and then when the guy heard the police was involved with the rooftop, all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dude, I didn't know if you were dead
Why did you do that?
or stole my rooftop or whatever."
Right.
And now all of a sudden he's deciding to cooperate and pay me back.
Amazing how that works.
Yeah. And I said, I'll keep the police out of it if you just refund me the money that I'm into it, which is $650. And so he's made a $25 payment. He's like, well, I'm trying to.
That right there is what
Yeah,
happened to your rooftop. The
exactly.
fact that he's making a $25 payment, that tells me right there what happened to your rooftop.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm sorry, I don't have any money right now. And, I'm having some hardships. And that's what the other guy said. And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so anyway,
I will say that this is good though for the community because a lot of us get things shipped and such. So you may want to check on the stability of your shipper and make sure they're solvent enough to be doing what they're doing.
yeah.
You
And
know,
there is feedback. And I was looking at their feedback before I, even took either of these guys, and they all have excellent reviews and everything else. And a lot of reviews. So, and then all of a sudden they get my stuff and things go south, and all of a sudden all the reviews after that are where's my product and blah blah
yeah.
blah. So
Well, Mexican Spec says we do things differently in Mexico. People would have visited the guy by now. Yeah, I believe that.
yeah, send Guido after him. Yeah.
But you'd messaged me, a while back about this, and you said that, resolution or not, it was important for you to forgive it and get it behind you so that it didn't eat away at you. And I think that says a lot about you and being able to go forward with the project by not letting that hamstring you. So commendable on you. I do hope that there's some justice. I hope you get your money. I hope you get a good resolution that's fair to you, but you're not going to hold your breath over that, because that's just taking days off of your life. So that's commendable. But I thought I would ask, because it's of value to people in the community to hear what your experience is and what we might be able to do differently next time we need something shipped.
Yeah. Gosh, I wish I could say do this, this, and this, but I thought I was doing that, and that, and then this happens, and I thought I would, because I've shipped a lot of stuff through UShip, and never had any problems at all, until this charger came along. Then all of a sudden I got two at once, and it's like, what in the world? So it's a good company, the way they do things. So because they don't get paid until the item is shipped, and then you give them a code, and then once they drop off your product, you give them the code, and then they take the code and give it back to UShip, and then UShip releases the funds to them. So, but yeah.
Ron here says, I don't recall seeing a 68 Charger convertible. Maybe become a trendsetter. I will say, since you're putting in a back half, you're going to be tying the frames and reinforcing things. You could if you had to.
Yeah. It's an option. Whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like that you're challenging yourself. So you need a quarter panel still on the passenger side, right?
Well, I have new AMD quarter panels for both sides, so I'm set there. And I do have a new AMD front and rear valence. I got the new the panel goes between the windshield and the trunk, deck filler panel. Mm-hmm. I have all that, all glass. I did find a new 68 fender, an AMD fender, through on Marketplace, through the Facebook groups. The guy, he changed plant directions with it, and he's like $500, never installed, brand new AMD fender, and they're $900 originally. So I figured it'd be good trading material, if anything, or I could cut out the marker lens and switch it if I want.
I remember very distinctly seeing an episode of Dukes of Hazzard. It was one of the Warner Brothers episodes, so it wasn't the first season, but you could very clearly tell that they had a 68 Charger fender on the left front, and they had painted over that round marker light.
No,
I still remember that. I couldn't tell you what episode it was, but I remember seeing that. So it wouldn't be unprecedented if you did it on yours anyway. Yeah, Mexican specs at a fender is $900 US. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Welcome to this 20% inflation.
Yeah, that's why I'll be showing up with a 68 fender on one side and a half of a 69 fender on the other side.
Johnny Cash will be proud.
I'll fix it later. And I'm also missing the center grill, but I can put a piece of wire in there, make it look good.
Mexican spec. I had Tom Sarmiento, who was a mechanic for Warner Brothers, on the show. So yes, we don't have any of that politically correct problem that Moparty has here. That's their problem, not mine. I don't live by those crazy rules. But I think it's cool. So what's your stopping point on it for this season? Because it's a project that's clearly going to take more than 215 days and 3 hours and 11 minutes. It's going to be longer. So what is your stopping point this season?
Yeah, for me, the main goal is get it running and driving, and so it can stop on its own. That's the main goal, because I want to be able to take it there and drive it down the track would be cool. As far as looks and stuff like that, I really don't care. I did want to paint the engine compartment first before I put the engine in, just to save a lot of work, but I just dropped the engine in, and I can always yank it out or paint it, mask it and paint it later, whatever. It'll never be nice, but it'll be, I want to make the outside look nice, if anything. So yeah. as long as I can get it running, driving, and stopping, that's my main goal.
You could always put some hot rod black on there.
I keep looking this way because I have a Charger sitting on my desk, a Hot Wheels, and I have it's my inspiration, Hot Wheels. It's funny because I have other Hot Wheels on my desk. Let me flip my phone around. And because each car that I have on my desk represents the car in real life that I have. And got Coronets and Darts and my L700 truck. I have one of those I want to make into got a station wagon, my Duster. Sorry, guys. And then the truck that I will be trading one of my Cudas for to, pull the Charger down there. So sorry if I just made you dizzy. But I have those cars on my desk, and just I'm always thinking, well, if I take this Cuda and trade it for this truck, I got two of these, and I'll trade it for this. Now I'll take this one off and put this on my desk. I'm funny that way.
Hey, if you don't quit, it's a win. Chris says comes off the trailer under its own power. Totally agree. That is a win.
Yeah.
Completely.
Heck, if the main goal for me, the next goal is to get it there. So that's going to be the fun part. And once it's there, even as a roller, I can just push it off the trailer. Like, it's here.
Now, Junkyard D had asked you, what's your engine and transmission? What are you planning? I assume it's going to be an 8 3/4 rear. That's what's in it, right?
Right now it's got that weird bolt pattern.
Is it an 8 1/4 in it now?
Yeah, 8 1/4.
Okay.
And so, but the guy that is putting the rear end in it, it'll have an 8 3/4. I have all sorts of gears that I can put in it. Some sure grip, some low ones. I got out of a Super B that I had years ago. And then right now, just to speed up the process to get the car running, what I'll probably do is take the 440 that I put in the Duster and the transmission, because they're both rebuilt, and the 440 is a truck motor, and it's just a simple rebuild. Nothing real special, but it does have like forged pistons, and so it does have kind of a cam, so it will have some stuff in it. But what I would like to do is I have a 383 with the forged crank, the forged pistons, the TRW high compression pistons. I'd like to find a set of aluminum heads, and then I got a tunnel ram I'd like to throw on that, and then take the 440 back out, put it back in the Duster, and then take that 383 once I assemble it, and put that in the Charger with a tunnel ram sticking through the hood, because the Charger already has that big gaping hole in there. So that's the future plan. But my friend Ted, he might assemble that engine for me. Heck, if I could have that done before, it may not be the perfect heads on it, but just to get it going would be cool. I could always swap heads out later. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's 1,980 miles for Scott.
Yeah, I'm up in Spokane, Washington. It's been a challenge for me every year financially to get something down there. That's why I fly in. I do have a plan as far as finances go to fund that, because what I'm thinking is I know where there's a 70 Dart and for sale, And the guy has 3 Dana 60s and a 4-speed and a whole bunch of 904 and 727 cores. He said I could have it all for $1,500, and it's a 318, a plumb crazy bucket seat console car. It's all there. It's really solid. Needs a little bit of work in the trunk and the lower quarter panels. It's rough, but if I can, it's kind of a gamble because it's $1,500 to get the car, clear title. But if I got the car, what I was thinking about doing is selling it or see if I could sell it and, see if I can make it run, do what I can. Probably not put a whole lot of work into it because I'll need as much time as I can for the charger. But if I could sell it for like 4,500 or, even just enough even to fund the gas down and back. And that would fund the trip to get down there.
Mexican Spec says, what color was it originally, though? Because right now I've seen blue and yellow. And what color was that car to start with?
The Charger or the Swinger? The Charger. Yeah, the Charger I do believe was, I think, a B5 blue car. There's no VIN tag, no fender tag, no title, nothing to tell other than, maybe what's, I think, inside the door jamb and inside like where you take the door panels off. I do believe it's a blue car. Probably B5 blue.
And ultimately, what color do you want to have it?
Well, I've always wanted the B5 blue with a black stripe across the back.
That would be good.
With the black top on it. That's kind of what I've always wanted to do. But then I changed my mind because I saw a picture of I have a 65 Dart that's like a burgundy color.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the color I call it. But if I go with that color, I saw a picture of a Charger and then it had a black stripe on it with the black top, and I'm like, that looks good. So I think I'm gonna go with like a burgundy color on it.
Now, Nate, don't be flashing gang signs now. The Tunnel Ram Mafia versus the Cross Ram Cartel versus the Single Carb Syndicate. Because Max Wedge Dick Dastardly, don't forget, he's the Cross Ram Cartel. Yeah, as he Dougster knows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd love to be a part of that group.
Yep. Ron Ward wants in on that Tunnel Ram Mafia. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ron Ward, will the Tunnel Ram what kind of Tunnel Ram would fit under a 6-pack scoop? I'm just curious how well that would fit. I don't know if it would or not, but Ron may know. But that sounds like a neat plan. Oh, now see, here we go. Here comes old high-tech Andrew Nelson to tell us CFI to the front. And speaking of people that make a long drive, Mongrel's Garage, he comes down out of Canada.
Yeah, we need to convoy down.
I mean, it's all relative. What's a long drive?
And something I'm trying to do is get a hold of Dead Dodge Garage, because I found out lives over on the other side of the state. And yep. I was like, really? I thought I was the only one up here with the YouTube channel.
I can get in contact with Jamie.
Because he was talking about it in one of his lives about wanting to go, but talking about the finances of it. But I had an idea that if I could, and I presented it to him as a comment in one of his things, but I don't think he's responded yet. But I was thinking if we could find a car trailer that could hold 2 cars, he could load his up, I could load mine up, and then we could take it down. And then if we split the gas bill there and back, that way I don't know how much it would cost in fuel to get down there one way, but I'm estimating $1,200-$1,500, I don't know. And then that way it would save, instead of $1,500 or $3,000. Now we're only spending about half. So that was a thought.
Ron is saying that a low deck block and maybe space the K-frame down, you can just fit it. That's interesting. And you get 2 inches of clearance. That's a lot.
My dad had a truck with a tunnel ram on it, and we mocked it up, and it barely closed the hood almost. Of course, that's a truck. They swallow engines.
Oh yeah. Yeah, trucks can run a deceptively big intake because of the amount of hood clearance they have. The engine gets lost in a truck, even a big block.
Yeah, a big block looks small in a truck engine compartment.
So Ron also says you need 2 inches is not to mess up the airflow. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, it would run, but it will run best if you can get unimpeded room for it to breathe. That is correct. Oh, now T is saying the blower brotherhood. Oh my gosh. We're going to be having gang wars of induction.
That's awesome.
Right, on a truck, you can run a 5-inch air cleaner. You can run a 5-inch air cleaner with a 6-pack scoop and a small block with a double pumper and a spacer and a big 4-barrel intake. I mean, there's a lot of things that'll clear depending on your application. Yeah, Busted Radio wants in on that. He says turbos to the front. He should say turbos come from behind. That's what he should be saying. Is Patrick a member of the Turbo Triad? What a fun bunch.
Yeah.
What a fun bunch.
We got the Mafia, the Triad,
Yeah.
all different sorts of group names.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we could repeat what the EV people are called, but anyway. So tell us more about what you do, and how did you come up with this name, Heavens Mopars? Like what did you do before you were a YouTube celebrity?
Celebrity, I'll take it. It's been fun. How I came up with the name is I've always joked with people because I love Mopar, and I tell people, I'm joking with them, but I say, I don't want every Mopar in the world. I just want one of each.
Right.
And but I laugh about it, but I think, it's sad, but it's true. I want a CUDA, I want a Challenger, I want a Superbird, I want a Super Bee. But so then I thought, here I am with all these cars. They're all projects, but they don't have to be perfect. I just want them running, and I'll fix one up at a time, something like that. But how I came up with the name is I'm a Christian and want to give God credit first and foremost. I'm not ashamed of it either. The difference he's made in my life has been amazing. But so I wanted to use my hobby to glorify God, so to speak. And so I wanted the focus of my hobby to be on God instead of, oh, look what I did. Look at all these cars I have, keeps me humble, I guess, in a roundabout way. So I just want to say, thanks, God. These are yours. You'd let me have the fun of working on them and having them. So I just want to make sure he got the credit. So it's funny because there was a guy in one of the comment section when I first started my channel. One of the comments I got from him, I'll never forget it, but he goes, "You're going to scare away half of your audience just because of your YouTube channel name." And I'm like, well, that's the case. They can
So
go
be
somewhere
it.
else. Exactly. I'm like, if the word heaven scares them from even looking at what I'm doing, then
You, you know that was a guy that had 2 subs and no videos, and he's trying to advise you. You always get the craziest advice from people who are way back on the sidelines. You ever notice that?
exactly. And I think you're right too, because yeah, I think I looked at his channel. And it's funny because I'll go to those people and subscribe to them and say, I'm your first subscriber.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I see that a lot, and it always amuses me. It's like, why would why would anybody want to take advice from somebody who's clearly never done what they're trying to tell you how to do? That
yeah.
just is crazy to me. But um, interesting, yeah, and that's true of a lot of us. I'm sure a lot of us have had people, don't do this on your channel, don't do that, and all this stuff. I'm like, look, man, if you want to have a channel that's dedicated to standing for nothing, why would anybody want to watch it? I mean, at some point in time, you have to tell them this is what this channel is about unapologetically, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
And I've always found that in business and personally, if you take a stand for who you are, what happens is that there's some people who don't like it, and you'll find more people who do like it, and even people who don't necessarily particularly like it can still respect that you're yourself. And you'll find that the problems from being fake get distilled away. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to be. Yeah, if
Thanks.
they don't like it, they can beat feet, as Chris says. Exactly. I mean, So yeah, I just say that it's occasionally a good thing to distill your channel every now and then and remind people of who you are and what you stand for and what you do. And if people don't like that, they don't have to watch.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's one thing with my channels. I try not to preach or anything like that, but people, I do want them to know where I stand, and standing firm on that. But then at the same time, I'm not going to try to shove something down someone's throat either. And so that's the way I see it.
High five, mongrels. That's exactly right. It's like these people that give money advice that are trying to play the shell game with debt and tell you that. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I learned my lesson from debt, that's for sure. Oh man, when I first started, how I learned how to use the cars as seed money to use the hobby to fund the hobby. Before, right after college, I found out what credit cards were, and I was like, "Oh, it's 71 Challenger, $1,700. Okay, cool. 360 in it, runs great. Blah blah blah." I have $1,000, but he's asking 1,700, so I'll put the other 700 on the credit card, and got me a Challenger. I'm like, cool. But the problem was I did that many times over. And here's another one for 2,800. I have 1,000. Let's put the other 1,800 on. And then I bought a house, or had my house first, and then I put like $5,000 worth of windows in it. Next thing you know, I had like $17,000 in credit card debt, and I'm like, what am I doing? Okay, let's start selling them. Yeah, I'll fix this one up and sell it, and I sell it for 7. Bam. Okay, I have 10,000 now. What can I sell next? And then I thought, dude, I got like 5 cars left over. And but that's how I learned how to use the hobby to fund the hobby. And to this day, that was in 2000. In 2000, when I paid off all my debt, all my student loans and everything, and all that 17,000 credit card debt, and been debt free since. Haven't been a penny in debt since then. So, but that's how I learned how to use the hobby to fund the hobby.
Right on, Nate. It's the way to be.
Exactly. If you don't have the money, don't get it. And that's why that $1,500 dart sport is still sitting there. The guy said he'd save it for me, and I'm like, I got to come up with some money, and because I just blew it all on the Charger, and so, but if I can get that car, it might get me down there. So I'm, it's tempting to steal it from our account, but my wife would kill me.
I hear that. But it sounds like you got a good plan and it's really ambitious. And I hope you have all this written out because, these days are ticking away.
Yeah. And that's
and
something.
Yeah.
It'll be committed to paper. I want to be at this stage with the rooftop. I want to be at this stage with the quarter panels. And I got to be done at this month so I can test it. And, but I think once that engine transmission goes in, my main thing I think will hold me up the most is electrical, because I'll have to buy a cheap universal wiring harness. But as long as I got the main things, that's because I'm clueless with that. But my neighbor
Barrows just did a video on that.
really?
And he tells you, how many circuits to get and what his experience has been with it. I would reach out to Barrows over using a universal harness.
Cool.
He just did one.
Perfect. Thank you, Barrows. And my neighbor, 2 houses down from me, he restores cars also. He's a Chevy guy, but we're good friends. He does some amazing work, and but he said that he'd help me with that too. So I'll be knocking on his door.
I like this. Wrong word says instant gratification isn't near as sweet as realizing a goal that is the result of hard work and perseverance. And before we get off of this, it's interesting because Scott's clock. I said, what verse would really be good for his clock? You see, you have the clock right there, right?
Yes.
You show my. I deliberated on a few and went with Romans 8:18.
It's right there, Romans 8:18.
And I wouldn't want to butcher it trying to do it off the top of my head, but I thought it was appropriate for Scott's clock.
Yeah, when I saw that, it made my day. I was like, awesome. And
so it was great for his clock particularly, but any clock could go on any clock or most clocks, but I thought it was good for his. So I like that. That said, my favorite verse particularly is Nehemiah 4:23b. We carried our weapons with us at all times, even when we went for water. That's me.
Yep. Very fitting.
That's it. I live a martial lifestyle.
That's cool.
Indirect Connection saying, if you go with quick wire, I can bring that too, Scott. They're only an hour from me. Okay. Indirect Connection, man. Jason's a can-do guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
like nothing stops that guy.
Yeah, he's been a huge blessing. Great guy too. I mean, he's actually coming over, and I was reading Rabbit Transit's quote. But Jason, if I can, him and Stephen Holtz, they're going to be coming over the week of March 10th, and for the whole week. And Steven and I, we did some wheeling and dealing, and then Jason, he got pulled into it because Steven, well, I'll tell you how it goes. Steven and I were talking about a Superbird, how I've always wanted to do one. And, how even if you just put the wing on it and the nose cone, you can sell it for X amount of dollars, make money off of it. But Steven's like, hey, Scott, there's one in a junkyard down here in Texas, Sport Satellite. And I'm like, really? And he ended up getting it for me because I told him I always wanted to do one. And so then I told him, okay, how much is it I can pay you? And so then I just got a text message. So then he said, I'd rather do some trading. What else do you have you'd be willing to trade for it? And I'm like, well, I have a 70, I think it's a 5 Dart Sport. And he goes, yeah, I'd trade the Dart Sport for it. So then he got talking with Jason and ended up trading him because Jason had a car Steven wanted. So they traded. And but on March 10th, they're going to come over, and both Steven and Jason, and we're all going to meet up. And so they're picking up their cars, and then they're going to do some trading. But then as we were talking, my dad, he has a 70 Challenger and had accidentally wrecked it. The throttle got stuck, kind of situation, and hit a guard rail at the very first post. His car was about to hit it, going just that very first pull, just right in the middle of the car. But at the last, he shut the engine off to kill the motor. But when it did that, it locked the steering. But then he turned the key just enough and to yank the wheel as hard as he could and hit it at the headlight area instead. And it literally ripped the fender off the car. But he hit it doing about 90. And but if it would have hit in the middle of the car, it would have been bad. But he was fine. But anyway, trying to put his car back together. And when I told Steven and Jason about that, they're like, dude, let's help your dad put his car together. And so that's why they're going to stay for the whole week, is we're going to all combine our efforts and get that car going. Dad has the motor out. He fixed all the nasty stuff, so now we just got to put it back together. And my dad, he's a vet and everything, and so they're totally wanting to help him out. And my dad, he's gone through some pretty drastic health changes lately. His neck, it was starting to literally paralyze him to the point where he's in a wheelchair and couldn't grab anything anymore. That was during COVID, but they fixed his neck and now he can walk again and slowly getting his strength in his hands back. So, but we just want to help him. And Dad, he's like, I just want to drive it one more time. That's my main goal. So we're like, Dad, I know you want to do things yourself, but we're going to gang up and get your car going for you. So
that's cool.
There'll be all sorts of probably 3 channels, lots of cameras rolling.
That'll be fun.
So we're looking forward to it. It'll be a blast. And then they're going to grab their cars. And I also sold Steven another car. So he's going to drop off the satellite and pick up a 66 Dart. So that'll be fun.
Mean Street Ken says he struggles with wiring and tracking down electrical gremlins. One thing I'll say is, and anybody can offer Ken advice, but I did in 2002, I did an automotive electrical class at community college, and I found it very beneficial. It helps you with all those little things that maybe you just don't know about electricity. And it made me much better with automotive electrical. So I would recommend that.
Interesting.
And really, really take the theory to heart. Learn how to use your meter. Learn how to really read your schematics, things like that. And that'll be a huge help to you, Ken. Well worth your time to do. Speaking of a guy who loves an enormous project of metalwork, Adam from Hoosier Garage, who I think Adam said, I want a 72 Duster. And so he went out with a pickaxe and a smelting pot and just, got his iron ore and just made the bucks to make the fenders. And I mean, he built that Duster from dust, I think. He's quite a fabricator. Adam started with just nothing. I was really impressed by that, truly.
Yeah, it's a big project.
Busted radio cannot stand wire. I don't mind doing the wiring. I don't mind. It's okay. I like to solder it. I hate doing crimp connections. To me, all that is, you're just buying. Crimp connections are like the most temporary thing to me. It's either soldered or it's temporary. Yeah, he says YouTube theater. It may be, but that is a cool build that Adam's got going on. He got the front half of it in primer here recently, so if you haven't seen that build, you're missing out. .38 says, I like the electricals. As long as I don't have someone in a rush standing behind me asking if it's done, I wouldn't wire anything for anyone like that. And electrical is usually something easy, indeed, but you got to find it. Yeah, we've all traced down some really obscure stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. I've wired 2 houses. They've passed inspections, but yet when it comes to cars, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know the order this goes to that. And so it throws me off. But yeah.
I don't necessarily know what you're talking about, Nate. I am so old school with that. I've got either a soldering iron, and I also have one that's gas powered, one electric, one gas. Actually, I have 2 electrics and 1 gas, and it all depends on what I'm doing, which one I use. So on the van, I used the gas one that I have because I did an alternator wire that's pretty big, and so I needed more heat than that electrical one really wanted to give it before it would dissipate into the wire. And congratulations, Adam hit 4,000 subs. Very cool, well earned. Danny Boyd says houses are kind of easy circuit-wise. Yeah, they're big, though. A lot to do.
I understand all that. My wife, our house needs to be rewired. And so she's like, you're always working on your cars. When are we going to do the house? So she's breathing down my neck with that. And then we got to remodel the kitchen and then paint the house. So yeah, this could be a last hurrah for me for a while.
Now, what does she think of this charger project?
She thinks I can do it. She's behind me. I've spotted all the money for it, so it doesn't affect our finances. She's just bothered about how much time it'll take. She's like, you got to learn how to balance working on your car and working on the house. And I'm like, once we start wiring the house, there is no balancing time. It's all or nothing. And so we might have to do a give and take where I work on a car 1 year and then 1 year work on the house. So
both Indirect Connection Jason and Jabo are recommended a schematic from Classic Car Wiring. That's the name of it. And they're both recommending that schematic. So that's a good recommendation to me.
Take a screenshot of that.
Now, Adam here, he has another recommendation. He says you have to trickle in the housework. So you hit it a little bit here and there, I guess, to grease the wheels of good faith for your car projects. Okay, there's a guy who knows.
Yeah,
so you can't ask me. See,
I've had a lot of house experience. I've restored 3 of them from the studs up, and I gotta plug in my phone. And then sold them, and now we're in the house we're at. But yeah, I did 3 of them, rewired them, lap plaster, everything. The last house I sold, they ended up tearing it down. That's after I put arches and pillars and crown molding and wainscoting, and oh man, that was disheartening.
It's let me tell you, as somebody who's on the home stretch of a huge remodel, yeah, I mean, I'm out of my element doing it, but I had to show these floor joists to a building inspector, and he looked at them just marveling because where they were, there's a pipe going through them, and I couldn't reinforce them with wood on either side, above or below, because this is on the first story of a 2-story, house. So what I did is I wrapped them all in 1/8-inch steel. So these things are just, I built basically a steel beam, an 1/8-inch steel beam around these joists. And it's like, yeah, it's plenty strong. It's like, that took a lot of time. Because, I mean, I spot welded it because I didn't want to seam weld it and catch a house on fire, right? But it was wild. But I'm like, well, that's how a guy who doesn't know how to work on houses and works on cars and just knows what'll be strong enough does. That's just, so there's a lot of that, I guess. Ron's saying, for those of you who are savvy with Rock Auto wholesaler closeouts, primary wire is almost always on clearance. I've purchased thousands of feet for penny on the dollar, from 8 gauge to 18 gauge. There you go. Good advice, Ron Ward. Ron knows all kinds of interesting things like that. So, what was your first car? Tell me about your early hot rodding. I don't think I've ever heard that on your channel.
Yeah, for me, a 65 Dodge Dart GT. That's my first car. It still is. I still have it. I got it when I was 15. I'll be 52 in April. So my dad, well, growing up, he had a 71 Roadrunner with a 383 in it, and he put some 10-inch slicks on it or whatever, and he just roasted them all day long. And he's like, no 15-year-old is getting this car.
Right.
And so he ended up trading it for that 65 Dart GT. There was an ad in the paper, and we called on it, and the guy's like, oh, you should have called like an hour ago on it. And we're like, okay, you must have sold it. And he's like, no, I still have it, just come over and look. And we're like, okay. And so we went and looked, and when we got there, the guy opened his garage door, and there it was inside his garage. And but there was busted glass everywhere in his garage. There was chrome thrown everywhere. One of the seats was on top of the car. He took a screwdriver and just pried all the chrome off of it, and just gouged everything up.
Man.
And, just ripped the door panels, the headliner. There was just stuff everywhere in that guy's garage. And we're like, what in the world happened? He's like, well, I just stripped it down about an hour ago. Then you called. And we're like, seriously? And the guy's like, I do have another 65 Dart GT that has all the chrome, all the glass, everything else, but it's kind of rotted. And but the car he stripped down was in solid shape. And Dad's like, okay. Dad traded that Roadrunner for the 2 Darts. And but what the guy did was he stripped it down because he was going to go play smash up derby with it.
Oh my gosh.
So that's why he's like, no one's buying it, I'll just trash it. And so we ended up trading. And then Dad, he thought, this will be a good way for him to learn how to take parts and off and on, and take 2 to make 1. That way you learn how to respect the car. That way you're not slamming the doors, and you're more likely to change your own oil, check it, stuff like that. And so we traded, started working on a car. And then about 2 weeks later, we drove by the guy's house out of curiosity. And sure enough, there was the Roadrunner. And it was sitting in his front yard, almost like a trophy. But what happened was the guy did the exact same thing to that Roadrunner, and that Roadrunner was all folded up like a pretzel. And Dad, he was so mad. His heart sank. But so we still got the car. It has a 340 and a 4-speed in it.
I was thinking that you still have that same car. I was going to ask you if it was the same one I've seen on your channel.
Yeah, that red color one. Yeah,
that's cool.
The freeze plugs in it. We got the motor out of a Duster and just put it in, but the freeze plugs were leaking last summer, and that's when Steven, he came out, and he actually helped me pull the engine. On your mark, get set, go. Let's see how quick we can do this. Pulled the engine, transmission out, swapped them out, put it back in. And but now I need the synchros and second gear don't want to shift. So I got to rebuild the transmission.
So I've done 2 of the Chrysler manuals. One was an 833, and one was I think it was a 233 speed. And when I went to see him, he had his 833 apart all over the bench. his backup one. We had one in the car, one backup apart. And I'm thinking, man, I said, that's pretty cool to see that. Then after I rode with him, I figured out why he's redoing these yearly.
Oh no.
Okay.
See where this is going. Parts
Yeah.
left out.
Just, yeah. Yeah. Hemi Stan doesn't hold back.
So I need to rebuild that transmission before I put it back. I could just put it back in now and drive it. It drives fine at lower speeds. It shifts fine. But if you drop the clutch and you're going and want to play and go to grab second, it just, when you go to like speed shift, does not like second gear. So I got to rebuild it. But now I got this car charger I got to do. And so it'll probably sit for a year. And it's like, so after September, it might get fixed. And my dad, he's losing heart because he's like, once you tear it apart, it'll sit like that for years. And I'm like, I want to prove you wrong, Dad, but and just do it right away and get it together and done. But and then the charger came, and so now I'm like, he's right.
You know, Adam, I really hated a lot of the stuff he tore up just to tear up for fun. But when he destroyed that 1916 Model T, I'm out. I was so out.
Yeah, some stuff is uncool just to get views.
I mean, you're taking away a museum piece that nobody can ever have, ever see, or even know existed to pad your pockets with today. That's what that's doing. I can't get on board with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's another reason why I named my channel Heavens Mopars, because I joke with people. It's like all these Mopars that are, all these cars that need help. I want to save them all.
Right. I do like the 833. I mean, it's actually a fun one to build. You just got to figure out the trick with the counter shaft. Those roller bearings are all just in there loose. And it's a fun one. People have done it, know exactly. Well, Ron will know exactly what I'm talking about. You've done that, you know. But sounds like you got a pretty good handle on it. So for the Charger, are you just going to try to do a 727, or you going to keep it simple? Or
well, the engine that's in the Duster, it's rebuilt and it's built for racing. That's the way I got the transmission. I traded with Chris Albrecht from Talking Mopars, and he got that 73 Roadrunner from me, and we did some trading to help bring the price down, and that transmission was part of the price, part of the trade. And so then I'll put that in the Charger for now just to get it running, but I do have another 727 out of a Charger. My dad, he had a 68 Charger and he sold it when I was in high school, and because tough times. But before he sold the car, the trunk was all rotted in it, and this was before AMD came out. I do believe. And but then I don't know how long AMD's been around, but
a while now.
But Dad, he took the engine and transmission out of the Charger and kept them. So we still have the 383 and the 727 that was out of the car, and then he sold the body. But I thought it would be cool to rebuild that 383 and 727 and put in my Charger. So that's an option. So I'll probably, so yeah. Once I'm done with the No Name Nationals, I'll probably pull the 440 and the 727, put it back in the Duster, and then this will be a good opportunity for me to learn how to build a transmission, both an automatic and my 4-speed, because I've never rebuilt a transmission before. So I'm about to learn.
Now, Ron has an opinion. He says the 833 is the most durable 4-speed. He says the Muncie and top loader shift like butter, but the 833 is more durable. I don't know. I had a friend that really liked the Ford top loader. You can do a lot with all three of those, though. That's for sure. Dean Stevenson likes his Tremec. Danny Boyd said 833s had to live behind Hemis. You know what's interesting, and I was talking with Cope about this, and that's that the 727 in the Hemi has an aluminum planetary. So you'll have an aluminum planetary on your output shaft on the Hemi, right? So I mean, people talk about Hemi like it's a standard for toughness, and I'm like, no, it really isn't. Just a thought.
Well, poor Jed, man, he busted his sheared it clean in half.
I don't know what the deal was with that. I think he said it could have been an inclusion in the output shaft or something, but yeah, he snapped that thing hard. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see Jezebel come back. See what Jezebel can do. Junkyard D is a good question here. Are you attempting to get the car titled, or will this be a dedicated track car?
Okay. I would like to get a title for it. Well, just because, I guess. I do want to make it streetable also. So it won't be like a serious fast, car, just something to make it run. In Washington State, in order to get a title, because I would like to, drive it on the street, take it to car shows, whatever, just cruise around with it. But in order to get a title without paperwork, I'll have to take it down once it's running, driving, blinkers work, all that fun stuff. Take it in, have it inspected by the state patrol. And then they do what's called a 3-year title. And so what they do is apparently do their research on the car, see if it's stolen or whatever, and contact previous owners or whatever they do. And then after 3 years, then they'll give you a title. But once it's inspected, so after your inspection, they make up a new registration for you, like right away, and they'll give it to you, and then you can take that to the DMV or the Department of Motor Vehicles, and then they'll give you tabs for it, and you can drive it right away. It's just 3 years. You just have to wait. But they do say to make sure you keep every receipt that you have or any penny that you put into the car, because, if someone does say, oh, that's my car, I want it back,
that's what I worry about with these bonded titles.
Yeah.
Is because with, like, for instance, let's say somebody sold a car and sold it without the title 20 years ago. And they found the title, say, 5 years ago, and just found it. And like, oh, you mean that car's worth that now? Well, I'm lying about that if I ever get the chance. And I really think I could see somebody screwing someone over on a bonded title because the car is worth so much more now, and lying about selling it because they still have the title. They sold it without because they couldn't. I can see that happen to somebody. I worry about that happening to people, honest people trying to do a simple bonded title.
Yeah, and what they told me is make sure, you keep track of when you got the car, because you can charge storage fees on that. And plus all the time, your time into it counts as money, I guess, and all your parts. And then what they do is, instead of just giving them the car back, they almost have to buy it. And then they're like, well, it's worth, I don't have that kind of money. It's like, well, you let it go years ago. So, now you're not just going to get a freebie.
I saw an ad somebody sent me, and I don't remember what the car was now, but it had one price, and then it had another price that was like 50% more with title. So it's like, is this guy going to keep the title for use on some other shell if you don't want to pay the extra? How crooked is that? And well, Blake went to look at this Duster that was for sale, and the guy had it and said, "Oh, well, yeah, I've got the fender tag and the VIN tags here. Just had them in a bag." Like, you know, there's just a lot of this sliminess going on, right?
Yeah.
I will say, when I got the Roadrunner, I mean, I actually looked at the welds on the quarter panel. I took the weather stripping off the trunk. I went everywhere. I checked the VINs. It's legit, right? I mean, there's just so much fraud now. Things we never even thought about having to do 20, 30 years ago. You have to do them now. It's a sad thing.
Yeah. People need to get a life.
Yeah, well, the one that was the easiest to authenticate was my Dart Sport, because I remember when the car raced, and it was only like 10 years old, and so the thing still had its full interior and everything. So I remember that car from then. That made it a whole lot easier for me. I was able to authenticate the car, and then I was already 99.5% sure before I even looked at the numbers. So now Ron is saying that the story of Wild Cherry Van comes to mind. Someone found it, assumed it was abandoned, restored it, then the actual owner sued to get it back. Yeah, that stuff can happen. I expect the more these car values go up, the more of this stuff we'll see, unfortunately. And Danny Boyd is saying that Kawasaki at Meekum or Barrett Jackson with the ground away VIN. Yeah, I didn't see that, but I heard something about that, according to the fishy VIN. But I'm telling you, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. And plus, the ability to reproduce these tags now is better than it ever has been. So, oh my, crazy stuff. So, do you have anything that's coming up on your channel here in the short run? Anything you want people to be on the lookout for?
I'm just finishing up the garage remodel. Not much there. I mean, as far as content coming out, nothing really, other than just the obstacles that I'm getting over just to try to get a car in the garage.
Are you going to give us a tour of the remodeled garage?
I missed the first part of what you said.
Are you going to give us a tour of the remodeled garage?
Yeah. So I'll be finishing or doing a video semi soon on that, and go from there. I'll probably be making a video when the guy's ready to trade the truck for the Cuda. We both said yes, but we're waiting on weather, so it's not so soggy. He's not in a real hurry for it, but I'm kind of in a hurry to get the truck because, that rear window, I need to replace the rust on the very bottom of where the window goes. And I'd like to put that in sooner than later. And so I can drive the truck, because work the bugs out of it. And because if I have to drive that down to Missouri, I want to know, instead of at the last minute, what the truck is capable of and what attention it needs and whatever. So, but yeah, probably be making a video on that. But
you may reach out to Auto Salvage Outlaws. He knows a lot about this stuff. Get the VIN, he can get the paperwork to get a title in his state. So he'd be a good one to ask. He does a lot of this stuff. So get in touch with him.
Interesting. Sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know.
And sometimes it's not what you know, but what you can prove.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's just, I'll tell you, they're just, you guys got to be more and more careful buying this stuff now. There's ways to fake engine casting numbers and everything else. I mean, I've heard people using JB Weld to fake casting numbers. on blocks.
Wow.
Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. You can do it.
Mold their own number.
You want to make a $200 360 block into a $1,000 340 block. All you need is an angle grinder and some JB Weld, according to some people. And I mean, if you make it good enough at a swap meet, I mean, that would be really dirty. But I mean, it's just, I see more of this stuff. I just see more of this stuff coming, unfortunately. And so, yeah, Blue Collar says no one cares about the casting numbers on a junkyard LS. Well, no, not now. Advantage LS, that's right. Nah, you see some of this stuff, but it's just, we just got to be more and more careful. Yeah, and Dakota just said that he defrauded somebody on a sale, and poor sucker. So anyway, sucker, if you're watching this and want to get in contact with me, I can tell you where Dakota lives. But no, I hope that old Dakota is kidding there. Yeah, and things happen at swap meets. But I'll tell you, most swap meet people are, good, honest people. But there's a handful of them that, anything they can get over. Mean Street Mopar recently got a short bed 84 Dodge truck. 400, got it as a roller. Okay, cool. Mean Street Mopar, get the content rolling, man. You got 300 subs to go. But that'll be cool. And Dean says Dakota had a conscience, the roof is on fire. Uh-oh. Yeah, Dakota. If a mod thinks Dakota needs a timeout, feel free. They keep him healthy and regular. Any of you guys have anything else for Scott? We got the last few minutes here. I do want to plug that Riley's Junkyard and Petting Zoo will be live after this. He's celebrating 250 subscribers. He's halfway to his 500. And he's going to be live with the Useful Entertainment gang tonight. And Testa Speed Shop Chris, Marty. He'll be live with them after this. I just want to put that out there. I know he was in the chat a little earlier. There he is. Yep, Riley. So he'll be live a little bit later tonight. And ASO's got a local channel, wants info. Sure, send him to these live streams. This is the perfect place to ask. Patrick says, I bought an X block that was not cheap, but had cracks in the main webbing I couldn't see, and now it's a paperweight. Oh, dude. Oh, man, I feel bad for you.
Ouch.
Now, did that guy know it was cracked? I mean, NSB wants to wish you all the best of luck in the build, and we're all rooting for him. Indeed, absolutely. We told Max Wedge, Dick Dastardly, that he needed to take some all thread and stack up as many spacers as he could on his engine, just for fun to see what it would do.
That'll be classic.
Ron Ward says it was nice to get to know you tonight. Thanks for being on the live. Ron, we appreciate you being here too. There's lots of cool people in this community, and I like to book guests from our community and get to ask them. I mean, I didn't know that deal with Scott's first car. I thought that was cool. I didn't know that Scott has helped so many people in his community outside of YouTube get back on their feet. I thought that was cool too. So it's cool. It's cool to have Scott on here to talk about different things.
Thanks.
And Patrick said, absolutely, he knew it. Now I have 3, 2 good ones and 1 paperweight. Well, Hemi Stan has a Hemi block that is so windowed on the sides, you can see 2 cylinders from the outside, and it's a display piece. And we all know somebody who would try to cold weld the thing back together and run it too, but it still makes a nice display, right? If you have enough blown up Hemi parts like he does, you can make something like that. Jason says that you'll get it done in time. I'll be the flame under your derriere to keep moving forward. Yeah. Dizzy says, I know you can do it. T's Good Time Garage is the next block coffee table. Yep, I guess it is now. That's kind of what I was thinking. I heard a little something about that. I just thought that was interesting.
My biggest fear with that car is that if for some reason things are so jacked up and tweaked or whatever that I can't get things to line up, and it's like, what do I do now? And
you can.
People be like, I told you.
You might get a blueprint on that chassis so that it actually has your measurements going from 0 point to 0 point. Even though in the back, I don't even think you have the 0 points. I think they're gone. But yeah. you can take enough measurements and get it right.
Yeah,
you probably want to support it on at least 6 jack stands, and that way you can support the whole thing and get it really perfect. Oh, I'll tell you somebody you might want to talk to is talk to Kiwi. You know Kiwi, don't you? Kiwi's Customs Classics, the Australian dude.
Mm-hmm.
The way he does it, when he does a structural repair like that, he has a way that he tacks it and checks gaps and such and straightens as he goes without using like a frame jig. He would be a good one to ask. He can probably give you some helpful hints on getting that car lined up. And Nate does make a good point here. He says, the thing is, it's so bad now that anything you do will be a huge improvement. Well, that's not swinging for the fences, but it is true.
Yeah.
Jason says, Charger. Weld the door shut, painted orange. Was that crooked? It would be straighter than a lot of those General Lees.
That'll be a plan B.
And Patrick says he has an OEM 70 Charger I can get measurements from. That's right. Patrick's got all kinds of stuff floating around. So
thanks, Patrick.
If you need to make a blueprint. So hot tip, if you get Patrick to send you measurements and specs, see if you can sneak a cookie recipe in there too.
Yeah, those chocolate chip peanut butter ones are
my goodness.
They melted in your mouth. They were so good.
They were all good. I think my favorite was the lemon. I mean, they were all delicious though. And these are true words of wisdom from Nate. It's more important to get it running than it is to get it perfect. Correct. Perfect is the enemy of good.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about perfect. As long as the doors close and the trunk closes, I'm happy with that. Because the car was destined to be junk anyway. So no matter what I do to it will help people appreciate it once again, even if it is not perfect.
And Ron is exactly right. A factory service manual for your car would be indispensable. Like one of these, right? That's what you're thinking of, Ron? And Patrick wants me to get you his number. I can certainly do that. And there's nothing to say you can't do that later, Jason. Well, but it won't matter because he's back half in the car anyway. So making a jig won't really help in this case, I don't think.
Yeah, because as long as I get the quarter panels, the top, and the glass, the trunk, just they'll be suspended in there. I'm not attaching them to any frame. And I have the frame piece. I can use it to guesstimate, so to speak. And as long as everything's stitched together, then he can just add it.
Yeah, Ron is right though. Get that factory book. Get your actual blueprint measurements. That'll be a big help to you.
The rooftop never came, Dakota. The guy said his truck caught on fire somewhere in South Dakota and his trailer also, but he couldn't prove it with any kind of documentation whatsoever. So
his truck and trailer caught fire in this remote Arctic Circle region of Utah, and his phone burned up in the truck, and he couldn't make a call for about 3 weeks. And now he's paid $25 of how much does he owe you?
I told him 650.
Yeah. So he's paid $25 of it. So the story absolutely stinks, but that's what he says. And I'm with Jason. I don't believe it for a minute. I want to see the ashes. I do not believe that.
Yeah. Once I told him the cops were involved, all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'll repay you.
So if any of you guys ever think about using U-Ship, please reach out to Scott for recommendation before you do.
Yeah. I know his company name. Don't use them. Yeah.
We have just a little bit of time left. If anybody has anything, last things for Scott, go ahead and ask. I will say, if you have not yet registered for the 3rd annual AHRA No Name Nationals, you feel free to do so anytime, right? Registrations are doing well, but we of course want to go ahead and get people booked up and committed, because I'm committed. So, that's the way it is, right? I commit, so I'm not asking you guys to do anything I'm not. But go ahead and get registered. If you're an aspiring No Name 500 channel, again, ask anybody you want, but I recommend registering early. It will help get your channel in motion sooner than later. To get registered, we'll get you up on my main page, get you in the channel reviews, and a lot more people will know that you're making a commitment to make a go with the No Name 500 if you go ahead and register. So that said, I encourage registering for the No Name 500 early. Buff says we'll see you at No Name Nationals again. That'll be cool. Unfinished Project has put up the link if you want to register, which is also down here. You can always type it in and use this redirect. A bunch have registered, Dizzy. A bunch. I don't even know off the top of my head. Registrations are doing well. For this time of year, we're doing well. And Ken can't wait to see everyone this year. Well, that's cool. Nate says that No Name 500 is so worth it. I would agree. Blue Collar, how many subscribers do you have now? It really helped catapult your channel. Ron is saying that back in the day, Brian Loans with Bang Shift shipped an AMC Javelin stock car from Arizona to Massachusetts using nothing other than Bang Shift members to haul it. The Red Ball Express. We could do it. I agree. We could. Patrick says fresh lemon cookies came out of the oven a little bit ago for Just Mopar Joe. Excellent. Unfinished Project says No Name 500 guys need to make content. Correct. They do. This is a good question. Junkyard D's asking, do we have a name for the Charger?
Yes. I've decided to call it the Hot Mess. And
yeah, Nate's at 85. But the Hot Mess, how'd you come up with that?
Well, Bear Rose, he's always saying, keep that metal hot. And well, that kind of is part of the inspiration. But I was talking with Jed from Scott's Speed Shop, and on Facebook we were going back and forth on something, and I said, yeah, it's a hot mess. And I was like, dude, that sounds like a fun name. And so through him and I talking, it came up, and I was like, I like that name. And but then I was thinking about it, and I think, well, it's kind of going to be a surprise, but after I got it fixed up, and then once it resembled, a car again, and if I got it painted and whatever, I thought it'd be cool to change the name to Amazing Grace. It sounds kind of corny, but the thought behind it, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Because the car is just a wretch, and it's like symbolic of how God can transform us, because some of us are pretty big wrecks too.
Just think about how it sounds with Ron Ward calling it coming out on the track.
There you go.
See? Well, guys, we're at our time. Thank you all for coming out. It's been a blast. The time has flown by. It's been a lot of fun. Want to thank Scott for being on the show tonight. And we got more fun stuff coming as the season moves along. Want to give you another reminder that Riley's Junkyard and Petting Zoo is going to be live after me. So he'll be live with the Useful Entertainment gang of Marty and Chris over there. So they'll be live after this. And with that, I will see all you guys next week. Later. Y'all take care.
Thank you, everyone. Later, John.